What's up, you guys? Welcome back to Southern Draw Law. My name is James White, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor, former police officer. This video will be a little bit different. I have no cop videos to show you. I have no catchy titles or thumbnails. Just me talking to you about stuff and life and the things that I think, which might be a little scary for you guys to navigate, so hang in there with me. I think I'm going to try to do a regular, type of segment like this, maybe only monthly where I do this, depending on whether you guys like it or not, but here goes. I had an opportunity to go to a Jelly Roll concert, and being the nerd that I am, I took it upon myself to overanalyze the moment and try and take something serious away from it. So the first thing I want to do is show you guys some clips from that evening, and then we're going to come back and talk about how I learned more about the law, people, and myself from Jelly Roll in a single evening than I did from 10 years of being a cop. So let's check out some of the clips, and we'll come back and talk about it.
To our dysfunctional family tonight, and that fastness went from being a concert to a family reunion, baby. Now what I would like to do is start a family tradition, because my first #1 on country radio was this song right here. This was the song that took me to #1 for the first time on the country charts. And especially being back home in the sweet state of Tennessee, I would love it if we could sing this song together. This is the second biggest show of the entire tour. There are almost 17,000 people in here right now. I can feel the world shaking. I'm a long head. I'm searching for. Yes, I'm pedal to the highway. If you ever wanna ride, put one finger in the sky if you're rocking with me right now.
So first and foremost, I think it's important to recognize that most people are good. People are not throwaways. There are evil people in the world who only want to hurt other people, and those people are not who I'm talking about in this video or generally ever. Most people, I think, are just doing the best they know how to do with the circumstances in front of them. When the war on drugs became sort of the focus of an enormous part of the aim of law enforcement in this country, it forced the world to be categorized into those people who were somehow related or involved in the drug trade and those who were not. The sad part of that bifurcation was that many of the people who got lumped into the team of sort of those involved in the drug trade were either victims of the drug trade, for example, addicts, sex trafficking victims, and people who turned to selling drugs because they felt they didn't have any other options. The options crowd could then be further broken down into people who found themselves in the drug trade because it was all they knew, like their parents were involved. They didn't have leadership to teach them how to cope with their problems. Maybe they were born addicted to drugs or genetically predisposed to addiction. Or maybe they were dealing with mental health issues without any dependable options, because you guys know that our mental health system is just phenomenal for people. So they self-medicated. You see, it's nuanced. It can't be subdivided once and then just left that way. But that's what we do. There was a documentarian named Albert Maysles who famously said that tyranny is the deliberate removal of nuance. And I think that's probably the most truth you can pack into a single sentence. I mean, it doesn't even matter what the subject is. If all you do is ask a single thing about someone, do they use or sell drugs? And then based on that, you decide they belong in one category or the other. You deliberately remove the various layers of nuance that explains the why. And the why is the most important thing we can all understand. And that willful ignorance of the why leads to the idea that the why doesn't matter. And then, to enforce the arbitrary boundaries society placed around people due to their relationship with the drug trade, we give guys and girls a gun and a badge, teach them how to question people to determine their pre-selected category, further teach them that the significance of the why is irrelevant, which indoctrinates them into believing that there are two categories of people, which in their minds becomes us versus them. And then we sit back and we wonder why cops are tyrants. Well, they're tyrants because we sponsor tyranny by deliberately allowing the removal of nuance, thus drawing battle lines and giving them the power to enforce arbitrary positions, the impact of which we never fully explored. The law as an institution, or I guess I should say the criminal justice system, is one of the most egregious offenders when it comes to this. And we, the people, allowed it to happen and continue to allow it to happen. The cruel act of recategorizing people with drug problems away from the idea that those are just flawed people who need our help and changing their category to outcasts who don't deserve our help or compassion is something we have allowed to happen and something that needs to change. And that's exactly what happened to Jason Jelly Roll DeFord from Antioch, Tennessee. And his incredible story, which I encourage you to look up and learn from, is what helped me understand this about the law. But Jelly Roll threw the world a curveball by figuring out that the one thing that can change anyone's life is the power of personal responsibility. Now, those who know me personally know that I only covet two pieces of art. Both are portraits of impactful people, and their pairing would likely surprise you. The first is this portrait drawn by one of my childhood friends named Tim Parsley of Dr. Jordan Peterson. Now, that might make some of you gasp and clutch your pearls, not because you ever actually listened to Jordan Peterson, but simply because you only know the name through the mainstream media, which intentionally links Jordan Peterson to everything evil that exists on the extreme right wing of politics. But if you could ever allow yourself an opportunity to ignore the media that tells you what they want you to think, and you just become a person who's resolved to actually hear out the people who might see the world differently than you might actually listen to his message. Almost all of it is about personal responsibility, and all of it is supported by completely apolitical empirical evidence gathered by various left wing, by the way, social scientists over the course of decades. Now, the other piece of art that I have is an incredible piece hand drawn by a friend of mine named Michael Thompson, who is a sailor in the Navy, using only blue colored Bic pens. And it is of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Now, per my request, this is a one of a kind piece. He drew this with like 200 or 300 blue Bic plastic pens, and he actually used a different background and a different pose and clothing than she's ever worn together. So this portrait is of his imagination mixing a couple different photographs of her, and there's no other one like it on the planet. This piece means what it means to me for reasons that have nothing to do with politics. It is also about personal responsibility. You see, if you reject all that's political from both Jordan Peterson and Ruth Bader Ginsburg, something still remains. Both people demonstrated that they believe in the ultimate power of the self. Dr. Peterson through his teachings, and Justice Ginsburg through the incredible refusal to accept her place in the world and her march to one of the most impactful positions a person can hold, that of a United States Supreme Court Justice. And she did it as a woman. If you learn the power of personal responsibility by looking at the empirical data offered by Jordan Peterson, you learn that you alone have the power to clean your room or clean up your mess, and that you have to be able to do that before you can go about fixing the world. And then, if you observe the life of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, you can learn that if you use all you can muster from the toolbox of personal responsibility, if you bust your ass, if you don't make excuses, and you don't allow anyone to get in your way, even you, even a girl with a cleaned up room or a cleaned up mess, you can also change the world in ways no one ever thought possible. But personal responsibility can only really be learned in a couple different ways. Either A, you find your way to the lessons and apply the principles through leadership of someone who loved you enough to teach it to you. And in those cases, you have to have the type of personality that allows you to learn from other people. You have to choose to implement the given strategies in your life. You have to be willing to forego whatever fun you think might be available if you do not implement those principles. And you just have to trust the person leading you and do it because you trust them. Most people don't have the organic discipline to learn this way. But the other way, and I would argue the way most people learn the power of personal responsibility, is by recognizing the impact of the poor choices they make in life, by way of feeling the weight of the negative consequences of those decisions, and they start to recognize that making different choices will bring about different consequences. That experience of learning from failure helps them find that sliver of hope that draws people to the possibility of having a better life by taking control of themselves and changing the way they live. That is what Jelly Roll did. And seeing his life trend upward in ways that maybe no one except him ever saw as possible has taught me the most about the inherent goodness of people and the institutions of prejudice within society that make it difficult for people to make something good out of bad choices or bad circumstances. And that is what Jelly Roll ultimately taught me about the power of people to drag themselves out of a pit of darkness and into a place of light. But what did Jelly Roll teach me about me? Now, most of you don't know that I am a hobbyist singer songwriter and have been most of my life. One of the first songs I ever recorded was called Today is the Day in Between. And the chorus of that song has the lyrics, Yesterday is the same as tomorrow, and today is just the day in between. The idea is that there's this love relationship, and without this person in your life, you're sort of stuck with every day being the same. And then that translates over into the idea that if nothing changes, there will be no difference between yesterday and tomorrow. Now, when I wrote that song some 20 years ago at the less than wise age of 25, I had no idea what those words meant. I just thought it offered a catchy hook that would resonate with people for reasons I didn't understand. What I've learned about life in the 20 years since I wrote and recorded that song is that the difference between yesterday and tomorrow is what we choose to do with today. What you do today in response to the impact yesterday had on you will determine whether tomorrow will be the same as it was yesterday, and whether you rendered today as just the day in between. So it is true that who you were yesterday will not define who you will be tomorrow, but ignoring the power of personal responsibility today and the opportunity you have today to change your life will absolutely determine who you will be tomorrow. And as the saying goes, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So I knew about personal responsibility and the power of people as an abstract. What I didn't realize is that even though I'm a positive person, a person who does his best to listen to and learn from people I disagree with or who have a different perspective, I'm still a hypocrite. See, I have various personality quirks that cause me to sort of segregate my mood. I have the ability to intentionally shut off emotion at times and see things completely from someone else's perspective. I can remove emotion and focus on fact, and I also have a dark sense of humor at times. Sometimes I find humor in things that other people wouldn't. I like inappropriate jokes, and I'll do just about anything to make people laugh. Sometimes that comes at a cost of people being uncomfortable with me or judging me entirely as a person based on something I said in the moment that I thought other people might find funny, but they didn't. And as such, I found myself sitting at the Jelly Roll concert, looking around thinking, holy shit, the Knoxville PD Warrants Division could make some serious headway in here tonight. Which admittedly is kind of funny depending on how you look at things, but what I didn't realize is that even thinking that way, it forced me further into my side of a divide between me and the people who don't have the same lifestyle as me. And in so doing, it kept a wall between us, the height and thickness of which kept me from seeing the humanity of the people on the other side. I wasn't a Jelly Roll fan. I don't really think he's a very good singer. I knew he was a good songwriter, but I seriously didn't like the dude. I didn't like the fact that society didn't focus so much on how obese he is. I didn't like the fact that he wasn't rejected because he has tattoos on his face. I didn't like the fact that the industry that is country music didn't seem to care that he can't sing all that well. And I loathed the fact that my wife loves his music. Not because I care what kind of music she listens to or really anything, but I just didn't like it. I didn't like the fact that she wanted to listen to it all the time and I had to hear it because I was closed off to Jelly Roll. Now, first off, let me say that as a practical matter, the way that the pandemic has skyrocketed prices for live events has made me so aggravated that I just generally avoid most concerts unless it's something I really want to do or someone I really want to see. In recent times, that has mostly been stand up comedians. And the tickets to see Jelly Roll in Knoxville were over $200. And although my wife is a smoke show that I don't deserve, here's a picture of us at the concert, I was not going to be willing to spend that much money to see someone whose music I didn't personally enjoy. But a really strange thing happened. 2 days before the concert, a friend of a friend posted that she had 4 tickets to the VIP experience where you could get dinner and drinks in addition to the tickets. She had great seats and she wasn't able to go. With little time to sell them for what they were probably worth to most people, she dropped the price and I was able to get the tickets for $100 each, making my wife a very happy camper and making it tolerable for me to go see the show. But why did I have such a disdain for Jelly Roll? I mean, why did it matter to me? Well, I mentioned to you earlier that I'm a singer songwriter. I'm a good singer. I'm not saying that so you'll agree with me, and I'm not saying that for attention. I'm saying it because it's a fact. I'm not one of these people whose family didn't love them enough to tell them not to go audition for American Idol because they're actually tone deaf and all they're going to do is embarrass themselves. I genuinely can sing. And so I put myself out there in 2007 and I auditioned twice for American Idol. And twice I had my heart broken because they never gave me a chance. In a Miami audition, my song got a standing ovation from around half the auditorium. So why didn't they want me? I mean, they took a tone deaf guy dressed in a Superman outfit right beside me because it was somebody they could make fun of. It wasn't because I wasn't a good singer, it was because I was overweight. I wasn't attractive enough to be TV material. And at that time, the voice hadn't come out where they had blind auditions. It was just based on, how they could market you and how you looked. And that fact alone made the goodness of my singing voice irrelevant. And so part of the problem that I had was that I had improper expectations about what they were actually looking for and what I actually had to offer. So, because of my experience and my embarrassment and maybe the death of my dream of being a singer, I rejected Jelly Roll because a part of me I'm not proud of wanted the world to shit on him in the same way it shit on me. Maybe the reason I didn't make it is because 3 years later I'd meet the love of my life and we'd build a family and that I was needed more for that purpose than to be a famous singer. Maybe it was because I was meant to do what I'm doing now. Whatever. Either way, all I knew was that it sucked, and as a result, I lost confidence with music and I pretty much stopped singing and writing songs. Hell, I even weighed 150 pounds less than Jelly Roll at the time of my audition, had no tattoos on my face, and was without a criminal record. Why does the world think he's so wonderful? That's the flawed mindset that I had. Well, the answer is because the world is full of people who are better than they were 17 years ago when I auditioned. And apparently, I learned that your trauma can cause you to be bitter towards people who don't deserve to carry your bitterness. These are things I understood about other people, but not about myself. So, just after I made the comment to my wife that this concert looked a whole lot like an outdoor free county fair show in here, I stopped myself and I began to look at what was actually going on. Jelly Roll has what I can only describe as it relates to charisma. He is undeniably magnetic in his ability to connect with people. And because I'd paid to be there, I was forced to listen to his lyrics and watch all these people who, by the way, probably skipped some serious obligations in order to scrape the money together for the concert. I watched those people fill with hope as they sang his songs. His songs, as he describes them, are real songs for real people with real problems. And once I changed my mindset, the show started to feel more like a revival than a music concert. People carried their children through the crowd on their shoulders, and every one of those kids that Jelly Roll saw individually, he took time to stop what he was doing and acknowledge them. Some of them he gave merchandise to, some he embraced, but all of them he made feel seen and special. And he didn't have to do that. What I realized in that moment was that it's possible that the very best people existing in our society have been cast away to the side as purposeless by both the law and people like me, and maybe even people like you. And that's not right. It's not fair. And I decided in that moment that I actually needed to be a better human being. Why didn't I realize all this when I was learning about the power of personal responsibility? And in the process, learning how to defend people who commit crimes because of drug addictions. Well, one of the things that Jelly Roll said during the concert that I thought was profound is that with the right perspective or mindset, and by doing the things that can change your life, you can turn your mess into a message. Why didn't I realize when I was a 25-year-old writing songs that I was writing messages about personal responsibility that could help me be a better human being? Well, because I was a mess and I was young. So, taking Jelly Roll's statement just a tad bit further, I realized that the only difference between a mess and a message is the age. So today, I'm still a mess, but I'm a mess with a little bit more age, and that is what Jelly Roll taught me about myself, and the reason I wanted to turn my mess into a message for you guys. So that's all for this one, guys. I hope you got something out of it. Please remember to like and subscribe and leave a comment on the video. Check out some of the other videos on the channel and leave a comment on there as well. Until I see you again, take care. Always film your interactions with the police and keep your evidence to yourself.